Welcome to Wednesday. Welcome to Uncovered. I'm Anthony Davis. He's Ron Filipkowski. And together we uncover the MAGA propaganda that is not covered by the corporate and mainstream media, which are increasingly becoming a thing of the past. Ron, good day to you. There's a lot happening today. It's almost, we say this every week, but the insanity is growing. The Elon Musk, I think maybe we should start with him, has been shitposting at a rate of knots. I suppose that's the nicest way of putting it. Maybe he bought Twitter so he could post. I think maybe that's really was the whole point, wasn't it? So he could have a platform. 44 billion, small price to pay for your own platform. Let's start with him and this continuing resolution, because this is the latest news coming out of Washington. Elon Musk is not happy about it, and apparently himself plans to take a leading role in cutting spending for the incoming Trump administration. So just bring us up to speed with A, the CR, but B, how Musk has reacted.
This is not going down the way Mike Johnson planned. I mean, this is
he doesn't seem to be able to catch a break, that guy, does he?
This is and largely because of Musk. I mean, Musk is really the problem here for him, because Mike was trying to do what he normally does, which is obfuscate. I mean, he basically had three options here. Okay, he could have done when I say a clean CR, that means just continue the current budget at the current spending levels. Make no changes, add nothing, subtract nothing, make no changes. Could have done a clean CR until the end of the fiscal year, which was probably the smart play, to be honest with you, to the end of September, because that would allow Donald Trump to do all his culture war stuff, all his other stuff he wants to do, dismantling the government, DOJ, everything else, and not have to worry about the budget until way down the line. That was one option. He never seemed to entertain that, right? So then option number two, a 90-day clean CR, that was probably the smartest play, because although the drawback to doing that was basically Trump takes office and they have to pass a budget within like 3 weeks of him taking office. And with all the other stuff that Trump wants to do, executive orders, pardons, everything else, and he's got all these battles going with his cabinet appointments. Those confirmation hearings will be going on at the same time. That could cause a problem there, because they'd have to come up with their own budget and have like 3 weeks to do it while doing all the other stuff. So he came up with what he normally does, what he has done in the past, what Kevin McCarthy did, which is realizing I'm never going to get anything passed if I add spending with my own party. Like I have to get a unanimous vote now. I have like a 3-seat majority. I can't get my people to unanimously vote for anything. You couldn't rename a post office after Ronald Reagan and get a unanimous vote from these people. So he knows that. So he knows he has to get Democratic votes. So the thing is, once you sit down with the Democratic negotiators and they know you're negotiating from a position of weakness, they're going to take you to the cleaners. And that's what happened. I mean, Democrats put in a lot of stuff that they wanted here. He gave them everything they wanted, which also included, by the way, a congressional pay raise a significant congressional pay raise that they all wanted that. Not just Democrats. And it gets he held on to it as long as he possibly could. It's got to be passed by Friday, because that's the doomsday scenario that Elon Musk wants, by the way, which is shut down the government over Christmas and New Year's. People would go nuts if he did that. Okay, but that's what Musk is yelling at him for. So he comes up with this hybrid scheme where he figures, okay, I'll get half the Republicans to vote for it, most of the Democrats, it'll go through and I'll survive and I'll get a reelected speaker. And this is what he basically said on Fox. We'll sort all this stuff out later when Trump gets in and we take the Senate. The problem is that they were going through this normal dance that they always do, where the far right are going to squawk and yell and scream, and it's going to be a dozen of them or 20 of them. They'll vote no, so they can go back to their districts and say, I held the line against these liberals. But it's still going to pass. The government stays open and everything's fine. But then enter Elon Musk into the equation, who since about 4 a.m. has been, since, because the bill was released late last night and he was up all night reading it with Ramaswamy, and he just started going nuts and called for every Republican who votes for this should be voted out of office. They should all be primaried. Johnson should be kicked out of the speakership. And what that has done is that has caused the rebel alliance among the right to get bigger and bigger hour by hour, because they all love Musk, a lot of them, and they're all afraid of him, and they all want to ingratiate themselves to him. And so a lot of the people, I think, who probably would have otherwise voted for it, including Luna, by the way, who just announced Musk has convinced her not to vote for it, when a big chunk of this new spending is for her district that was hit by a hurricane. And she's now going to vote against funding for her disaster relief in her district because she's so afraid of Musk. So this is a nightmare. I mean, nobody really knows exactly how this is going to play out at this point. If I had to bet, they're going to vote on this tonight. It will probably pass. Lots of Republicans will vote against it. Most Democrats will vote for it. Then it will go to the Senate, and you got people like Rand Paul and Ted Cruz that are going to go nuts. So I don't know. This could die in the Senate. I mean, if I had to bet, I'd bet it's going to pass with everybody screaming and yelling at each other, but who knows?
Why is Musk getting involved in a CR that is only, what's the duration on it? Is it 3 months or something?
Yeah, 90 days.
Right. So, I mean, it's because here's the thing. People voted for Trump. They got Musk, right? This is what I'm starting to discover.
That's what it's starting to look like, right?
Right. And here's the second point I want to make about this. The optics of two billionaires, Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, I caveat with being the richest man on the planet, trying to defund the federal government and take entitlements and services. I mean, they're going after public services. They're going after the types of things that they've never had to access themselves. Yeah, so they probably don't even know what they are, right?
They don't care about any of those things.
They don't care about any of those because it's a bit like Trump in the last few days with groceries, thinking, A, he's invented the word and saying that nobody else uses that word. And number two,
I've never used it. I mean,
right, not really being able to communicate what groceries are or how important they are to people or how necessary they are. I mean, talk about taking somebody who is so unsuitable for public service and like putting them on the spot, getting them to, okay, you've got 1 minute, talk about groceries, eggs, I don't know. And this is what's so tragic about this. Trump, billionaire. Ramaswamy, billionaire. Musk, billionaire. The American people struggling. And you've got the authoritarians now coming in with all their great riches and wealth, and they are going to start ripping the heart out of the federal government and the system that keeps people from poverty. They probably don't know anything about these tax, these rebates or any of these programs that keep people alive. And nor do they care.
It would be one thing if they kept all this a secret during the election and then sprung it on people afterwards, but they didn't. They told everybody what they were going to do, but people didn't listen. People didn't pay attention because they got distracted by, trans bathrooms and migrant crime and the price of bacon. And they didn't really pay that much close attention to what these people were saying that they were going to do, because this is what they said they were going to do. He said they were going to cut the federal budget by 33%. And nobody ever really thought about what that really means. And who are you going to get to vote for that? And then the other problem is that Musk doesn't know compromise. He doesn't believe in compromise. He's not a deal maker. Musk has always been, throughout his life, throughout his business career, a my way or the highway guy. Unlike Trump. Trump is a negotiator. Trump will give up things that he believes in, things that he wants in a heartbeat if he can get something in return that he wants.
Well, because he doesn't really believe in anything. That's the thing about Trump. Right?
That's right. That's true. I mean, I meant things that he believes in today. He'll give those up tomorrow. Yeah. Right. Because that's who Trump is. He's just a transactional person. That is not who Musk is. Musk is a guy who is an absolute dictator. It's my way or the highway.
Tunnel vision, and arguably
Tunnel vision.
it's his tunnel vision that has enabled him to become the richest man in the world.
Yes,
because
but he
no one
doesn't
has told him no.
He doesn't think about the plight of others, and that includes
Right.
these Republican politicians who, you know, are worried about having to go back to their districts over Christmas after just having a disaster of shutting down the government and firing their speaker. I mean, these people have to face voters. They have to run for re-election in less than 2 years. They're thinking about that all the time. Musk never considers that. He doesn't care. So this is the problem with having these two oligarchs outside government who have no government, is no oversight. There's no conflict rules. Unelected, that are just making edicts and trying to run the show from outside the government. We've never had anything like this happen before. Meanwhile, Trump is just sitting back today and saying nothing. So that can only mean that Trump is blessing Musk in what he's doing and wants this chaos and wants Musk to be the bad guy here while he plays the good cop, or, you know, Trump's just playing golf.
Bannon. I have a feeling, Ron, that a lot of these roads lead to Bannon. And I was thinking about him because I saw a video of him coming out of that New York event where the guy collapsed and he was like running off into his car and Matt Gaetz was on his way out and there was a whole kerfuffle. And I was looking at his face and I was thinking to myself, wow, you know, considering you were in prison recently, you know, you're right back there in the center causing all this trouble. He is somebody from the very beginning that said that he wanted to crash the entire system, that he wanted to not just bring down the federal government, but, you know, and deconstruct the administrative state. But he is an anarchist. And what we are now starting to see is the anarchy that Steve Bannon was talking about nearly 10 years ago. And I think, it was a rehearsal. The first Trump administration was a rehearsal. This now, with the Project 2025 and the plan just to set this whole thing on fire, I'm starting to see that now. Because when you say it's unprecedented because no one has had the balls to actually go through with stuff like this before.
But it's morphed into something else from what Bannon envisioned, because Bannon did not envision oligarchs and billionaires, so many of them throughout the administration, because he's always been anti-billionaire. That's the thing about him, is he's always he wants he has a lot of a big agenda, and but part of his agenda is fighting multinational trade, fighting globalists, fighting China. He's very anti-China.
But he is rich. I mean, he's all, you know, he is wealthy.
He's rich from other things.
Other things. So, you know, it is the pot calling the kettle black to a certain extent.
Yeah. I mean, he hates Elon Musk for exactly those reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, he's against transhumanism. He's called, which we could spend a lot of time on, but bottom line is so many things that Bannon is constitutionally, philosophically, viscerally against. That's who Musk is. So I think what has happened here is basically Musk and Vivek have hijacked a piece of Bannon's agenda, but taken it in a whole different place that he didn't envision. It's sort of like Bannon created this Frankenstein and he lost control of it, you know? So I don't really think that Bannon has very much influence anymore at all, because I think he used to, but I think that Musk has completely pushed him out.
But what about Stephen Miller? Isn't he Bannon's protege? And
no, not really.
Is there not a kind of back channel there?
No, I don't think he's anyone's protege. I think Stephen Miller is his own operation. Yeah, he has a whole different agenda.
Nosferatu.
I mean, they're close, but they're still different. Yeah, he has. I mean, we could spend a lot of time on Stephen Miller too, but I mean, his whole agenda is basically white nationalism.
Yeah.
And that's not exactly Bannon's agenda. That's part of Bannon, certainly, I think, racist, but I don't think that white nationalism is really, you know, what Bannon is primarily focused on.
So what we're seeing, because you and I are we're mapping the way the administration operates. And so clearly these factions, because we've said all along that Trump is exhausted. He doesn't really want to work. And it's not that he's delegating, but he is allowing people clearly to go their own, plow their own path in this a little, so he can stay at Mar-a-Lago and have a good time. Have a good time. Have a good time, everyone. Sorry, I'm saying today with a new hairstyle. And my fear is that the Ramaswamy and the Musk faction is going to be making an awful lot of noise going forward.
They are the wild card.
Way more noise, because didn't Trump design that faction to not be able to really infiltrate the federal government at its heart? That was the whole point, was to usher them out.
Honestly, what I thought Trump was trying to do here, and I still do, is get rid of these guys.
Right.
I mean, he wanted them to buy the election for him, and then he wanted them to go away. He doesn't want to, but Musk won't go away. I mean, he's by his side 24 hours a day. And so he put him in this committee, but I don't think that I think he thought that this was going to be some advisory committee that was going to meet once a month and give him a report in June.
Yeah.
He didn't think that Musk was going to be like running the day-to-day operations of the government, which basically he's acting even today like he is the president.
Well, try telling Musk to stand
Trump
down.
is nowhere to be found.
Yeah. Where's JD Vance at the moment?
But let's go. And JD Vance is nowhere to be found. You make an interesting point with the factions, because that is an incredible, because normally you have a government that has like almost everybody in there has like a same philosophy, and they're sort of rowing in the same
it's
direction.
umbrellaed, isn't it? Yeah.
But when you look at this, you're talking about like foreign policy. You're talking about very establishment, Marco Rubio, old school neocon type guy, old school Republican philosophy. Then you have all these people underneath him who are the opposite of that, who want to pull back U.S. from back from the world, withdraw from NATO, which is not Rubio's position at all.
And then you got Tom Homan doing that whole family separations thing.
His thing.
Yeah.
Then you have like in the money, the financial side of the house, the treasury side and all of that, old school Wall Street billionaires all about bringing in the big dollars. But then you have Trump, who wants to do all this protectionism stuff, which directly contradicts those guys, what those guys want. Then you got the DOJ side of the house with Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, who want to go off on a mission to go after all of Trump's
retribution.
enemies. And then you got Stephen Miller, like you said, in the domestic policy agenda, Russ Vought, the budget director. They want to cut the federal government by a third and round up all the homeless people and deport them and round up all the migrants. And you think about it, you round up all the migrants, you're talking about basically 25% of the construction workers in this company, 30% of the agriculture workers, 30% of the hospitality industry, and getting rid of all of them. And those industries are largely owned by Republicans. And so, it's just like, how are all of the, and we haven't even talked about Congress yet. No. How are all of these factions going to get along with each other and row in the same direction? I can't see how.
And Trump isn't smart enough to be able to manage it. Trump is a one-on-one kind of guy, right? He needs to be in the room with Kim Jong or something in order to feel that he has control and power. And I covered for Ben yesterday on with Michael Cohen's show, and Michael was kind of telling me about how Trump operates. Go off and tell that newspaper to withdraw that story, or we're going to sue them. And I get the feeling that he really operates in a kind of fighting fires kind of way. Puts that fire out, then puts that fire out, then puts that fire out. Normally by paying people off or suing people. This is different. He can't pay off Elon Musk. He can't, right? He can't pay off Vivek Ramaswamy. He and the other two groups that you hadn't mentioned, Heritage Foundation, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Got a huge influence. Kevin Roberts, huge influence in this, and then Federalist Society. Again, huge influence.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Coming in from above Trump, like the puppet masters.
Yeah.
This is not going to end well, Ron Filipkowski. This is going to be the shit show from hell.
It's going to be like we said, it's going to be way worse than last time, as we predicted for like the past 2 years. We said that this was going to happen because contrast the people he has brought in here with the people he brought in 2017. There's you're talking about like people like Rex Tillerson and all these old guard
professionals.
His chief of staff, the guy from Indiana, I'm drawing a blank on his name now, but it was all these old guard establishment Republican guys, ex-generals and all this. And they were just trying to like control Trump. And now it's like Trump can't control the people he has. And once they start in on each other and once they start fighting, what is Musk going to do when Marco Rubio expresses support for Ukraine? I mean, or
NATO.
Or NATO. I mean, I don't see how this government and we haven't even mentioned RFK yet. We haven't mentioned RFK. I mean, how is this? RFK spent the last 2 days trying to assure Republican senators that he's not really that pro-choice after being pro-choice his whole life.
Right.
And coming out against basically like environmental regulations on billionaire investors that he spent his entire life fighting for.
Yeah, he was a lawyer.
I mean, how did any of these people get along or work together? I don't know.
Well, they don't. I mean, tell me if there's any truth to this. I actually said I think I said it to Michael. Maybe I did the Midas Touch podcast on Monday with Popok. So I'm we're all working overtime. We should say why, and that is, of course, because the brothers have been at the White House,
hanging out with
the president and doing an interview with Joe Biden and being, rubbing shoulders with amazing people at the White House Christmas party. I mean, I'm so proud of those boys. I have to tell you,
they're getting goofed on by the right wingers because they all took photos with Hunter Biden. So those are going all over Twitter now of our guys with Hunter at the White House.
Right.
even
you might
better. Imagine that set of
even better.
People off.
But I was talking to Popok about exactly this, that the destabilization of this administration before they're even in office. Ron, he's not in office yet.
Exactly.
And we're seeing more chaos in the last 6 weeks since the election than at any time.
Can we talk about one more thing? Speaking of chaos?
Yeah.
The Dow Jones is like cratering as we're sitting here right now.
Right.
It's down 10 consecutive days. What did Trump do last week? He visited the New York Stock Exchange, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. The last
kiss of death.
The last time the Dow Jones was down 10 days in a row was 1978. Sneak preview of coming attractions.
Trump boasted. You saw that clip of him at Mar-a-Lago where he comes out with his hair slicked back in that kind of t-shirt,
coming off the golf course.
Off the golf course. Sorry, and he kind of referenced the fact that the world is. Have you seen what's happening in the world at the moment? It's amazing. And I was thinking, is he living in the same world that I'm living in? Because we have got multiple governments collapsing at the moment in France and Germany and South Korea.
Canada.
And Canada. And he's like taking credit for the fact that all this stuff is happening because he's back.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you have literally, you destabilized the Middle East last time. Now you're working on Europe and our closest allies. I mean, I don't know where this is going to end up, but it is not going to be pretty. Hey, I should show this. I should show this Kat Kamek posting. Tell us what this is. Rather brilliant. She posted, conservative Republican should start an OnlyFans account, considering how often we get screwed. The CR is a bad deal.
Yeah, she's Florida Republican. So, I mean, this is pretty much what they're all saying. I mean, there's probably like 50 of them at least by my last count.
Yeah.
That are all saying the same thing, that our speaker screwed us over. Now, 1 week ago, Johnson was gloating that that there was nobody looking to oust him as speaker, and he was just going to cruise to re-election, said how confident he was. He wasn't worried about it a bit. I like to check back in with him today because I think he's toast. Honestly, I'll predict that right now. The speaker election is like January 4th, I think. I think he's gone. I don't see how he survives what is happening today.
Wow. I mean, we often joke about him, but it is a very responsible position, second in line to the presidency, amongst other things. He was wholly unqualified for the job when he got it in the first place. I mean, remember, he got it in the fallout from Kevin McCarthy with his multiple votes and the uprising and Matt Gaetz and all that crazy stuff. And he kind of showed up as a conservative figure who was kind of quiet and trustworthy, potentially, despite the fact that he's an insurrectionist and was, very much part of the January 6th coup. But he's also a Christian nationalist. He's also one of these people who has very questionable views about women and about LGBTQ+, and also the isolationist views as well, the America First thing. I would not be unhappy about seeing the back of that guy.
And and I think you will. And the only the person who I think would have actually handled this fairly well as speaker, this whole situation over the last year, is Kevin McCarthy. I think Kevin McCarthy would have done a much better job than Mike Johnson. I think he would be doing a much better job right now. But who got rid of Kevin McCarthy? Matt Gaetz. and guess what? Kevin McCarthy had what we used to call back in the Cold War days mutually assured destruction with Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy, because what did they know a year ago? Well, Kevin McCarthy knew about what was in this ethics report and what was coming down the pike, because he talked about it all the time. So he knew that he had the nuclear bomb on Gaetz, and Gaetz, with the motion to vacate and his handful of groupies that he had who are going to vote with him on that, had the ability to take out McCarthy. So what happens? Gaetz takes out McCarthy, which hurt them, I think, the House Republicans. You end up with a dope like Mike Johnson in there. And then McCarthy gets his revenge with this ethics report, because you know what happened? Obviously the report today, the breaking news was that they have secretly voted to release the report. Well, that took Republican votes on the ethics committee to get this report out, which means, and Kevin McCarthy has buddies on the ethics committee.
So this is revenge.
Kevin McCarthy called in a hit last week on Matt Gaetz to make sure that he would never, ever be elected to anything again, and had his boys vote to release the ethics report, which is going to fry Gaetz.
Let's take a look at this. Just explain who posted this, because I don't.
Well, this is Matt Gaetz. This is Matt Gaetz.
This is Matt Gaetz' response to the news. So I see. Let me read it aloud.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt Gaetz posted, instead, House Ethics will reportedly post a report online that I have no opportunity to debate or rebut as a former member of the body. In my single days, get this, I often sent funds to women that I dated, even some I never dated, but who asked. I dated several of these women for years. I never had sexual contact with someone under 18. Any claim that I have would be destroyed in court, which is why no such claim was ever made in court. My 30s were an era of working very hard and playing hard too. It's embarrassing, though, not criminal, that I probably partied, womanized, drank and smoked more than I should have earlier in life. I live a different life now, but at least I didn't vote for a continuing resolution that fuck over the country. I think he should have written fucks over the country there. So sure. I apologize for his grammar, but not his language. I mean, this is the modern Republican Party, isn't it?
Yeah. So Gaetz signs off there by saying, I might have engaged in prostitution with young girls and sent people money that I was dating or wanted to date. And I might have done some drugs and smoked some weed and showed naked sex videos on the floor of the house. But my voting record was solid. This guy
could have been the attorney general. I mean, was like this close.
He thought that by resigning, he was going to be slick and keep this from coming out. But Kevin McCarthy made a few phone calls, I have no doubt, and made sure that this came out.
Isn't it funny how we, because at the time we hated Kevin McCarthy with a passion. He was a snake. And now depending on who comes next in these roles, we look back and go, hey, it wasn't so bad, because it's the same as we did with, George W. Bush, who at the time, like, everybody was just like, this is possibly the worst person on the planet. You compared him to Donald Trump, and you're like, not so bad after all.
Comparison, yeah, right. Yeah, we're talking about like Hitler and Stalin, who's worse, right?
Right, yeah. Pick your least favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it is, the next speaker could be worse than Johnson, and we might have nostalgia for the feckless Johnson era, but I doubt it. But
what's it going to take?
It would be interesting to see maybe they'll make Musk speaker. You don't have to be a member of the House to be speaker. What about that?
I don't know who came up with these rules. I mean, the more I learn about American politics, you drop a bomb like you don't even have to be an elected representative to be speaker.
Vance could be speaker.
Well, it would certainly get him out of Donald Trump's hair.
I don't know if a VP can be speaker, though. I'm not sure about that one.
No, because the VP is deciding vote as well, right? In the other house.
In the Senate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure it's going to come from somebody in the House, but who it is, I mean, how do you get all these people to vote for you? Because think about it. I mean, Democrats have a vote in that too. So you have to get basically every single Republican to agree on one person. And they've proven time and time again that that's pretty hard for them to do. I mean, how many votes did it take them to all agree on Mike Johnson? Like 19 votes or something like that.
I've got this clip about Matt Gaetz from CNN. Let's have a quick look.
That a House panel took a secret vote to release the ethics report on former Congressman Matt Gaetz. You'll remember that investigation looked into allegations of sexual misconduct, drug use, and possible bribes. It is now set to be made public, this investigation, soon.
We are told that this report is expected to be made public once this session of Congress ends and lawmakers leave Washington to return home for the holidays. But I think the timing of this is very notable. We know that when the committee first voted last month not to release this report, Matt Gaetz was still Donald Trump's pick to be his attorney general. Since then, he has withdrawn his name from consideration. He has also made clear that he has no plans to return to Congress next year, and has also said that he is planning to join One America News Network to be an anchor for them in January. Now, just to get a little bit into this report, the Ethics Committee has been working on this report and investigating Gaetz's alleged conduct for about a year now. Here's some of what they've been investigating: whether he engaged in sexual misconduct, whether he used illicit drugs, and also whether he shared inappropriate images or videos on the House floor, misused state identification records, converted campaign funds to personal use, accepted a bribe, had improper gratuity or impermissible gifts. And that is according to an announcement from the panel while they were investigating this. So again, this is a reversal for them. We had no idea after they had initially voted whether they were ultimately going to vote on whether to release this report. We now know that they voted secretly to do so.
So how does the secret vote work?
Everything they do is secret. The Ethics Committee,
right.
They don't publicize or tell. They don't show their hearings on TV. Nothing. Everything they do is secret, because the whole thing is it's supposed to be very nonpartisan. Where the members of and they typically put people on the committee who are the least partisan people. You're not going to see these Fox News bomb throwers on the Ethics Committee. They typically are going to put the people you never heard of are on that committee, right? So they vote in secret because they're trying to shield themselves from any kind of rancor, public scrutiny, all that. They do everything behind the scenes, which is kind of like the only way, since they're policing themselves and their own members. It's kind of the only way it can work. I also want to give a shout out to that reporter. I mean, she broke that story. I think she's fairly new for CNN covering Congress. She's really, really good. I mean, she's been breaking some stuff lately. I forget her name, Ayana or Aliana or something like that. But Manu Raju, right? I mean, between the two of them, they have really good reporting on Congress, because, Raju, some people dump on him. I don't get it, because his job is to get these guys to talk, Republicans and Democrats. Nobody does a better job than him at getting these guys to talk. So many big clips over the years he's gotten. And he does it because he's large. He's totally nonpartisan. He's one of these almost like an old school British interviewer where you can't almost tell what party you can't tell what he thinks, what he believes. And that's how he gets these guys to talk. So I just want to, they broke that Gaetz story, and CNN, their congressional reporters are really good.
Let's talk about Trump's position on Canada for a minute, because he's been posting again about Canada. This time on Truth Social, he posted, "No one can answer why we subsidize Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. Makes no sense. Many Canadians want Canada to become the 51st state. They would save massively on taxes and military protection. I think it's a great idea. 51st state." That's the incoming president of the United States, ladies and gentlemen.
Hold on. Look at the timestamp.
Okay, let's stick it back up again. Here we go. 3:23 in the morning.
That's our boy. He's ranting about Canada at 3:23 in the morning.
This is what this guy's dreaming about, clearly. I mean, Canada is not taking this lying down. I think maybe they've taken a leaf out, because after that embarrassing thing with Trudeau last week, I think I've seen some of the leading politicians in Canada now stand up, and they're kind of taking, they're taking Mexico's position now, which is like, don't you mess with us. And I'm pleased that they're starting to turn around on that, because the whole Trudeau kissing the ring in Mar-a-Lago was embarrassing.
It caused his finance minister to resign. I mean, not the only reason she resigned, but that was cited by her as a big reason. She felt like Trudeau was not prepared for a trade war. Canada wasn't prepared, that they could be prepared. See, she has always been, Freeland was her name. She's always been anti-Trump, harshly anti-Trump. And she was in that position the last time Trump was president and was harshly anti-Trump, right? And so she quit after his meeting with Trump, which really sent her their government into serious turmoil. There was some speculation that Trudeau was going to resign the next day, and his government right now is sort of teetering on the edge of survival. So what is Trump doing? Trump is pouring gasoline on this fire. He's trying to make it worse. He wants Trudeau's government to fall. Yeah, because it may very well be that a conservative government takes its place that's more Trump friendly, and so that's what he wants. So I don't know if Trudeau can survive what's happening right now in Canada. But I talk to a lot of reporters, a lot of people in Canada who try to educate me on their politics. It's a little complicated to me, but it sounds like he's in a lot of trouble, and a lot of that was caused by Donald Trump.
We should also say that Donald Trump is completely wrong about the numbers on trade. This idea that we are subsidizing them, that is not how free trade works.
It's not we're not subsidizing Canada. Okay, we have a trade surplus with the Netherlands and with UK. Okay, we have a trade surplus. In other words, UK and Netherlands and other countries as well buy more from us than we buy from them. Are they subsidizing us? Because according to Trump's definition, that's a subsidy. It's not a subsidy. A subsidy would be our government giving a Canadian company money. That's not what's happening here. Okay, it just means that we're buying more of their stuff than they're buying from us. So, it's just asinine for him to use that word, subsidy. It's not subsidy, it's a trade deficit.
But it's intentional, Ron, because he's a propagandist. Right? And he wants Americans to hate Canadians. He is trying to start a war. He is seeking regime change. This is the kind of guy that we're talking about. And we need to stop framing him as a normal politician and recognize that he is a dictator who will seek to bring down countries, even if they're trading partners. I mean, notice he said nothing about Mexico since Claudia Sheinbaum stood up to him. He's left that one alone.
He wants the government to fall in UK, in Canada, and in France, and that's what he wants. Because and Ukraine. I mean, he doesn't like those governments, and so that's what he's trying to do. When it normally, since there are allies, the United States would not get involved in their domestic politics in any way. Okay, but Donald Trump, they're not his friends, so he wants to get rid of them somehow.
And I don't know if you're aware of this, but Elon Musk has actually been meeting with Nigel Farage, who is the kind of far-right British politician.
I wanted to ask you a question about that.
Yeah.
Because what I read was that he's talking about doing like a PAC deal with putting $100 million in
Correct.
it for the U. Are there I thought aren't your campaign finance laws different than ours? Aren't they strict or not?
They are, but there are ways around it in the same way that you can do that here with PACs. So
they have the same kind of thing in UK?
There's limits on direct contributions. But
they have like PACs that...
There is... I don't know the ins and outs of how they get round it, but they do get round it. But Musk doesn't care for the rules, does he? I mean, Musk, again, is now leveraging his power as the richest man in the world, and I'm sure he loves that title, to now infiltrate the British political system with wealth. $100 million might not sound like a lot in America. In England, that is a fortune, right? Because our economy is so much smaller. And so...
I imagine there's not as much money in your politics as ours.
No, nothing like it. I mean, nothing like it. And so that's why this is such a huge story. Firstly, Nigel Farage is a friend of Donald Trump and has been hanging out at Mar-a-Lago with him and Elon Musk.
He's a Looney Tune. Yeah.
Looney Tune.
I've heard him in many interviews. Yeah.
Right. Well, I've interviewed him. And trust me, this guy is a, I mean, he was like with the Nazi youth. If you look at his backstory when he was at boarding school, he's bad news.
Yeah.
But he was also an investment banker. He talks a good talk. He's the most charismatic British politician, right? So he, like Trump, is able to present his far-right nationalist policies. He was the architect of Brexit, right? He was a member of the European Parliament when he started all that stuff. He's now got this new party called Reform. He only has a solitary seat in Parliament. He's in that seat. He now has a direct access to the richest man in the world via Donald Trump, the most annoying person in the world. And I have no doubt that they're going to do what you say. They're going to seek to pump so much money into, I mean, they can do it through propaganda machines, right? Marketing and social media. Sure. They don't even need to put it into politics. They can actually put it into advertising. And that's what they're going to do.
Get out the vote.
Exactly like they did here. And they basically buy an election through propaganda and disinformation. Yeah. And I mark my words, Musk and Trump are going to do this right around Europe. Right? They are literally, this is like
their hands full here too. I mean,
but they also have
the only thing that could take them away from doing that would be if they're so distracted with a mess here.
True, but he has the funds to be able to do it. I mean, he has unlimited funds, right? So he can put a team together whose job it is to kind of try and bring down the left-wing government in the UK.
Yeah,
I mean, this is like the Nazis invading Poland. It all started with propaganda.
And they're using money instead of bullets.
They're using money instead of bullets, and they have an unlimited supply of funds. So, when Trump was like warning about World War III, maybe he knew something that we didn't, that there was a plan. I'm sure Bannon has a finger in this as well, because he would love for this thing. And he's always in the UK and talking to Farage and people like that. They're all connected.
Yeah, but it's more like an ideological war than a nuclear war. When he talks about World War III.
Well, all modern war, modern warfare,
migration war, economics, all of
an information war.
Yeah, information war. Yeah, that's probably really what they're talking about when they say World War III. In the back of their mind.
Changing governments around, and he looks to Venezuela. He looks to places where he can make these relationships with these leaders who are extremists. And then his agenda can kind of play out throughout the world. America is not enough. And, look at Musk as, Tesla in itself. It already has outposts all around the world and factories and staff. He has satellites around the whole planet, which if he turned off, so much of the communications would fail. It's Starlink, of course, which, people are running to Costco to buy themselves a personal Starlink transceiver for a couple of $100. What they're doing is they're giving their data away. Do you know, this is a bit of an aside, Ron, but you know, I love a cruise. Well, a lot of the cruises now use Starlink. And when you log in, it says you're giving away all your data. There's no security, Ron. Right? So you don't want to do any, you don't want to do if you did your online banking, who's to know that Starlink can't access your online banking when you're doing it when you're at sea or, you know, using his satellites? That's my concern now, is that we're all so desperate to be connected to the internet all the time that the guy controlling the satellites is also a heavy political influencer. And
I mean, maybe he foresees that if you control AI and you control the internet, that's the new way to control the world.
He's actually been saying that for a long time, and people didn't really know what he meant. I'm telling you, this is... This is probably a good time to mention that Popok and I are going to start a new show in the new year called Global AF, where we talk about the effect of world affairs connected to the United States.
Wow.
So...
You two guys together doing a show. Wow.
I know.
That could be interesting.
I'm going to be cheating on you a little bit, Ron. You're just going to have to.
That's okay. That's all right. I got enough other things going on myself.
I know you have, but I mean, it's only an hour. It's only an hour a week. But I mean, you know,
I think hopefully he'll let you talk. I mean, that would be good.
I'm hoping he doesn't, because then I can, you know, it's an easy ride for me. But the time we've actually been talking about doing this show for over 2 years. And the reason, you know, we never did it because it didn't feel necessary. There has never been a time like now where Americans need to learn about the effect of a dictatorship like Trump's on the rest of the world. And so that's why it's global AF, because, you know,
I like it.
International relations and the like. We have to take a quick break, but we're going to come back and talk about Hershel Walker, who's been given an ambassadorship. Things are looking up for the Trump regime. We'll do that next on Uncovered. Don't you wish you had a secret weapon? Something that always impresses, a recipe maybe, or even a piece of clothing? Well, a secret weapon is a great asset to have in your back pocket. It helps you get ahead in life, and that is how Mack Weldon thinks about clothing. As a secret weapon. Timeless, classic style that's infused with performance fabrics and hidden details. I love my Ace full-zip hooded sweatshirt in a charcoal heather grey. It keeps me warm, makes me feel more confident, because it's quality clothing. Mack Weldon apparel gives you understated good looks for understated confidence. Not flashy, just classic, always in style, and made from the world's most comfortable performance materials. Mack Weldon clothes are designed to fit your style and the demands of modern life. They look like regular clothes, but they feel like the latest in modern comfort. Get timeless looks with modern comfort from Mack Weldon. Go to mackweldon.com and get 25% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code UNCOVERED. That's MACKWELDON.com. Promo code UNCOVERED. Welcome back to the pack.
Can I get that 25% off, by the way, of the Mack Weldon?
If you use the promo code, Ron, 25% is yours, my friend.
Oh, okay. I'm in.
Me too. Details and the link is in the description below. Okay, let's get on to Hershel Walker. Trump has nominated the former American football star and failed Republican Senate candidate as the U.S. ambassador to the Bahamas. Trump wrote, Hershel has spent decades serving as an ambassador to our nation's youth, our men and women in the military, and athletes at home and abroad. And so he will make our entire nation proud, because we know you will always put America first. That was his posting on Truth Social. What do you make of this, Ron?
Well, let's start with take the country. Why Bahamas? I mean, you know, he his designated black position in the cabinet is housing and urban development, right? He appointed Ben Carson to that last time. He appointed Ben Carson's protege, who's a black guy, this time as HUD secretary. I forgot his name off the top of my head right now. So obviously, you know, that's got the word urban in it. And so that's got to be a black job, right? So then, you know, he needs to find a spot for Hershel. So he's like, well, I need a black country, you know. So we're sending you to the Bahamas. You're the ambassador to the Bahamas, because he's not going to send Hershel to like Italy, right? Or Germany
or Greece even.
Right. No, Greece. That's a whole different ball game.
Right.
We talked about that last week. The other funny thing is, like, he endorsed 4 different people over the years for Senate in Georgia who all lost. And he has appointed all 4 of them to his administration. So it's like the best way to get a job in the Trump administration is to like run for Senate in Georgia and lose. But keep in mind why Hershel Walker lost was, he recruited him to move from Texas to Georgia to run. What came out, he has CTE from football, that he held a gun to his wife's head and threatened to kill her, that he strangled his wife and beat her on numerous occasions. He paid for abortions of his multiple mistresses. We can go on and on. Obviously, he can't speak coherently. He pretended he was a deputy sheriff from Johnson County. He flashed the badge during the debate. His whole campaign was a disaster. And, I tend to believe that Georgia was ready in 2022 to vote for a Republican. Republicans were winning in different places, but Hershel was such a bad candidate that Warnock beat him by a few points. And so, what does Trump do when Trump caused all of that. Trump had no business calling up Hershel Walker and persuading him to do that. And it was a disaster. And so it's almost like Trump does this move where, just like he did with David Perdue. David Perdue, he coaxed him to run for governor against Kemp and got destroyed by 38 points. So it's almost like, I don't know if Trump feels bad or whatever. He feels like he owes these people. I don't know if he has that emotion in his head, but he seems to reward people after he's humiliated them quite often. And that seems to be the case here.
Do you think Hershel Walker is taking this appointment as a reward? Is it a reward to relocate to the Bahamas?
U.S. ambassador to the Bahamas, I'll take that job if he doesn't want it. That sounds like a pretty good gig to me.
Cushy. Yeah. Nice house on the beach.
Hershel is gonna like that job a lot. Is Hershel married now? I think he is. That marriage might not survive that ambassadorship to the Bahamas. I can see Hershel down there having a good time. I think that Hershel is thrilled. It's sort of like after he lost that election, he went into hiding and no one's heard from him. And I think it was and his own son, by the way, Christian, basically disowned him during that campaign. He said, I'm out. I'm out. My dad's a liar. He's a scumbag. All of that, because what happened was his son was shot. His son knew about the domestic violence against his mom, but his son did not know about all the other stuff. So as this stuff was coming out, Christian, who I talked to from time to time, kept getting more upset and more upset and more upset. And he actually messaged me after the campaign was over and was like, Ron, I used to hate you because you attacked my dad all the time, but now I love you because you attacked my dad all the time. And wow. I agree with everything you said now, which was kind of funny,
Here's a clip of his dad, just to remind us that he is a pretend sheriff. He has a toy badge, and
no, this is legit.
Oh, that's right. It was one of those like freedom of the city type gifts, wasn't it? Where you're an honorary. They give it to kids normally, right? You're an honorary police officer. Okay, let's take a look.
Hershel Walker. This is the badge I flashed at the debate, and this is my sheriff, Sheriff Rowland.
Yes. If Hershel's badge is a prop, then I guess this badge I wear every day to protect the citizen, I guess it's a prop also. But these are real badges, and I gave this to my friend for all he's done for this country and this county.
There it is. That settles it. There'll be no more talk of toy badges.
We have a lot of international viewers who watch this show, and that's who that's who I think of, like somebody in another country, Australia or whatever, UK or wherever, watching this, who sees that. It's sort of like the caricature of a Georgia sheriff, but it's actually real.
Yeah. Reminds me, there was a James Bond movie in the 80s. I think it was Live and Let Die, where there was like a sheriff who was like chewing tobacco and spitting. And he looked just looked like that guy. Let's talk about Nancy Mace for a minute. She's concerned that the drone sightings, the New Jersey drone sightings, are either aliens, obviously, from another planet, or Iran, or Russia, or China searching for missing nuclear warhead. Let's see what she had to say about it.
So my concern is if it's not craft from outer space, because I think that has to be on the table. That has to be an option. Is it our technology, or is it Russia or Iran or China? Is there someone who's winning the arms race, and are we behind? Because my question is about national security. And I hope that it's us. I hope that it's not our adversaries or something from outside the universe, because I have real concerns that, like, if these drones are from Iran or China, like some of the rumors have been, I pray that they're ours, but we should also know why they're out there. Like, are they looking for radiation? Are they looking for a missing nuclear warhead? Like, we deserve to have some answers here, because people are scared. And a lot of congressional offices are hearing people, they're writing in with their concerns when they're seeing these drones.
Would you please leave your critical thinking in the foyer? And you're welcome to say anything you like, despite the fact that you have a responsible position as a public servant.
I think these drones are looking for trans people in women's bathrooms.
I knew you were going to say that. That's clearly what it is.
I mean, I thought that's what Mace was going to say. You know, she was going to tie in her whole agenda in one clip, but she didn't go there. She just stuck with aliens and Iran. You know, I mean,
perfectly
Iran
normal.
looking for a missing nuclear warhead on the Jersey Shore. You know, they must have lost one, you know, that might have washed up ashore on the beach. So they have to send a drone to look for it so they can recover it before the Americans find out.
Is it not a good idea, though, if you are going to talk about this stuff, not to guess? Because it just seems to me like there's a lot of people doing a lot of guessing. And it really isn't necessary. You know, there are official lines on this, and there's every day there's new news on this story. I wrote a Substack about it the other day saying, in my opinion, it's just pesky kids. And have you seen how big the drones are that you can buy on Amazon these days? But also a lot of these photographs of drones are just aeroplanes. I mean, there's 3 airports in the vicinity of New Jersey. And also, why did the aliens just choose New Jersey to go back and forth? I mean, did they not want to maybe check out Manhattan or, I don't know, you know, cross an ocean maybe, go somewhere nicer, less polluted?
I don't mean this as any offense to the people in New Jersey, but if I was an alien and I could sort of like choose to go anywhere on Earth, I would not choose to go to New Jersey. There would be other places that I would pick before that. So a couple points. Jeff Van Drew is the one who started this, who's the congressman from New Jersey. And he was the first one who started claiming that these were like foreign threats or aliens or whatever, or China. So he was the one who sort of got everything going. So that's one point. I'll just say it really all started with one guy.
And Trump joined in, of course. Trump posted about on social media about, you know, you've got to sort this out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think Trump necessarily bought into all that, but I just think Trump likes causing chaos for Joe Biden and everybody else. So he decided to throw gas on that fire. But you know what sort of tells me for sure that this is all nonsense is Elon Musk. I mean, Elon Musk has not said a word about it.
He's probably loving
it.
You
know, like if there was anything to this, he would probably know that and he would say something, right? But the fact that Musk has said nothing about this tells me that this is probably nothing.
He's probably controlling it from the same app that told him the results of the election before the election was over.
Oh man, you already tried to do that to me once on a show, and you're not doing it to me again.
I just love your reaction. It's so funny. Okay, let's talk about. There's a couple of interesting things here. We've got this story about the payoff. The $15 million settlement.
You know, the only reason why I say it is because I know a big chunk of our audience agrees with you on that.
Really?
And I don't want them after me.
It's not my opinion. I'm just being silly. Don't say
I don't want them coming after me.
Okay, well, don't say it's my opinion. Donald Trump won the election fair and square, right? But apparently Elon Musk had an act.
I'm just taking the fifth.
Okay. Take the fifth. I love that. All right. So there's been a lot of blowback about the news that ABC settled with Donald Trump, and Trump sued them for defamation because George Stephanopoulos used the word rape to describe the case with E. Jean Carroll, and even though it was adjudicated rape, even though it was not necessarily rape, but Donald Trump wasn't having it either way. Let's just take a look at this conversation between Jim Acosta and Brian Selter on CNN discussing the fallout from this.
Just not the case. But I just feel, and I wonder how you feel about that aspect of all of this. I mean, to me, it seems this is a time for our industry to stand firm. And we're going to have a very important job to do. And that's not putting us on a pedestal or anything like that, but we're going to have a very important job to do because Trump is not going to change his ways when he gets back in the Oval Office. He's going to continue to say things that need to be fact-checked. And you can't have the news industry worrying about this sort of stuff when they're just simply doing their jobs.
Well, if some bend the knee, others have to stand up straighter. You know, the former Time magazine editor Richard Stengel said this morning, Trump has sued dozens of publications and media outlets in the past, trying to, quote, intimidate the press into self-censorship, not to actually win any particular case. He did win in this case with a big payment, but that broader concern about self-censorship is one that I know many viewers and readers are worried about. And ultimately, That's Jim, right. As you know, we work for them. We work for the viewers, not
That's
for
right.
anybody else.
That's right. All right, Brian Selter, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Wasn't Brian Selter fired from CNN anyway? I mean, wasn't that a whole thing?
Because nobody watched the show. But yeah, they brought him back as like a contributor or something.
Yeah.
Why can't we have more Jim Acostas? That's what I want to know. Like, why is it so hard to find people like Jim Acosta and have more of them on CNN? Because he's really great. I mean, he cuts through the bullshit. He's got a good bullshit detector. That's what I like about Acosta. That's probably why they had to pull him out of the White House as a White House press corps, because he had too good of a bullshit detector and Trump hated him. So, but it's absolutely right. I mean, the point, this ABC settlement was not just about ABC, and they should have recognized that, which they did not. They just wanted to get out of this lawsuit, and they didn't want to go through depositions.
But they've now set a precedent.
And they just wanted it over with. But they didn't think, whoever made the settlement, I don't believe, they didn't think about the broader implications of how this would affect not just media companies, but how it would affect Trump, because it has emboldened him now. And we saw this because 5 minutes after this settlement is reached, he files a lawsuit against the Des Moines Register, the largest paper in Iowa, right, for their poll. So Trump is now threatening to sue media companies left and right. And it's not just him. It's Republican politicians. It's Elon Musk. There are going to be, I predict, over the next 2 years, a blizzard of lawsuits against media companies, big and small. And what is going to happen is every media company is going to be gun shy. They're going to be afraid. They're going to be scrutinizing every syllable, every comma, because they're going to be, or they're just going to tell their people, you come to an editor with a story idea. Look, I found this out. Somebody told me this. I heard this rumor. And normally what you do is say, okay, I'm going to give you 2 more people, follow up on that, take a week to dig into this. But I think what you're going to have happen a lot now is editorial rooms are going to be like, no, we're not doing that. Just leave that alone. We're not going down that road. And that's why I think it is so important for independent media to pop up and to do their job. But you know what? The threat of a lawsuit has an even bigger impact on independent media who doesn't have the resources to fight these things in court.
But that's the thing. Trump knows, or probably knows, that he can't win a lot of these. But he can destroy the media organizations because they don't have the funds to fight it. And so he's going to go after groups that he doesn't care for because they don't report on him. I mean, let's just remind people what we are describing is classic despotism and authoritarianism and a dictatorship. So we've got to stop talking about the threat of dictatorship like it's coming over the hill. It's already arrived. He's not even been inaugurated yet, and he is suing media companies because he doesn't like the way he is reported on. I mean, Viktor Orban has done this in Hungary. he's basically taken over all of the media organizations. So it's basically like state journalism now.
So
there is no pushback.
So when you say like, oh, he's going to put journalists in jail and he's going to pull broadcast licenses. Well, that's the hyperbole, but he doesn't really need to do those things if he can intimidate, right? So you don't need to sort of go too far and break the law or bend the Constitution if by intimidation, threats of lawsuits, all that, you can get them to do what you want. And that's the
same shit that Elon Musk is pulling.
Same thing with Musk. It's the whole playbook. It's a new form of authoritarianism using carrot and stick, money, threats, intimidation, bribery, greasing the skids, doing handshake deals. It's a new form of intimidation and authoritarianism that doesn't use the point of a gun. It uses the threat of a lawsuit.
And we are living in a digital universe now. And, if in the 1930s, social media could be weaponized like this, or media could be weaponized like this, they would have done. But as you say, they had to intimidate with firearms. The world has changed. And so arguably this is classic authoritarianism, just with different tools.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. That's what I think too. Yep.
So is it true that ABC have government contracts and that there's a fear that, they were going to lose their government contracts if they didn't succumb to Trump's wishes?
I did see that. I was a little surprised to learn that they have like $50 million or something like that in government.
But isn't this the problem? That all of these organizations...
I don't think they're going to keep those contracts.
Right, but they're so intertwined now.
Yeah.
And because of the way that these consortiums operate, that there really isn't much separation. And, you find out that your TV company owns your healthcare and all that type of stuff. And that's not good for the people.
And then you get what you have with like the LA Times right now, which is every headline now has to be submitted to the owner for approval.
Right.
The owner of the newspaper, the billionaire, Trump fan, has to sign off on every headline.
And he made his money in biotech. He's not even a journalist.
Yeah. But, is Bezos going to start doing that with Washington Post?
Well, he already did. He stopped them from supporting Harris.
Right. But I mean, is he going to start squashing articles? Look, media companies have to unite and they have to dig in and stand together because united we stand, divided we fall, all that kind of stuff. House divided among itself cannot stand. If he can go after media companies individually and get them to settle, that's going to destabilize the whole system. They all have to stand together. They all have to come together and say, none of us are going to settle anything. We're going to work together. But I don't know if any of them are going to do that.
It didn't Zuckerberg announce that he was about to make a big donation to Trump's campaign or Trump's administration, $1 million or something?
Yeah. Him, the Netflix guy was down there yesterday at Mar-a-Lago. Right. Yeah, they're all kissing the ring.
Okay, so Trump now has Musk, Bezos, Zuckerberg. These are the broligarchs that we need to be very fearful of because they control the flow of information. They also control the money supply. America has changed fundamentally in the less than a decade that I've been living here. Just seeing how it was to how it is.
Well, and why does he from time to time go out of his way to attack Steve Jobs's ex-wife, his wife?
Right.
Because she owns the Atlantic, so, he can't control her. He can't control them.
Tim Cook was with him the other day as well.
There's another one. That's right. Exactly. So, yeah, that's what he's trying to do is gain control over the people who own the media as much as he can.
I'm a little scared, but I also recognize that there is 50% of the voting public who are dead against all of this. And that not just as Democrats, I'm not a Democrat, but I am pro-democracy, vehemently pro-democracy, anti-authoritarianism. And I think there's a lot of people, we certainly feel it with the Midas Mighty and you know, the millions of people that support this network. But as you said earlier about independent journalism, it seems like this really is going to be a fight, like hand-to-hand combat of information between, I mean, if they were to infiltrate YouTube, which is owned by Google, that would be a big problem.
Google and YouTube would be, yeah, that would be a huge problem, Hopefully not. That wouldn't happen, but yeah, I mean, or, you know, even Blue Sky. I mean, you're talking about these like small companies that can easily be bought out by, if the owners are willing to sell. What it's going to take is people who own these little startup platforms or bigger platforms who are just unwilling to compromise, give in, or sell, and just stand on principle. And a lot of billionaires don't stand on principle.
No.
They stand on money.
Wealth. How much money do these people need? I mean, that's why I enjoy Mark Cuban, who is one of the few billionaires who's on the right side of history. And he says, how much money do I need? I mean, Warren Buffett only pays himself $100,000 a year.
Cuban could be a lot richer, I believe.
For sure.
If he wasn't trying to, you know, help people out so much, like saving money on prescription drugs and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, compared to Musk, Cuban is not wealthy at all. If you want to, I think Cuban's worth like 15 million, 20 million, something like that. I saw, I mean, which is like 10% of Musk, if that, you know.
You mean billion rather than
5%.
Yeah.
Did I say million? Billion.
You said billion.
But
definitely billion.
His net worth is dwarfed by Musk.
Right.
You know,
well, because Musk is so much greater than everybody else, maybe apart from Vladimir Putin. I mean, that's what we have to understand.
Yeah.
Let's just talk for a second about Stephen A. Smith, another one of these kind of right-wing, commentators who has a show and is now trying to kind of rewrite history on January 6th. Can you just set this up for us before I play some of this clip?
Yeah, I'll say he's not really right-wing, although, you know, he's an independent. You know, he's not a Democrat. He's an independent who votes sometimes Republican, sometimes
That's what
Democrat.
Joe Rogan said, and then he was completely in the tank for Trump. So,
you know, he recently, the problem with this, and I had a big problem with what he said, is that he's ESPN's like #1 show. So he just signed like $120 million contract extension. And you know how I always talk about low information voters on these places. You have people who watch his show who aren't into politics. They don't watch Fox. They don't watch Newsmax. They don't watch MSNBC or CNN, but they watch ESPN.
Yeah.
And so when he takes a position on some political issue, it very well may be the first time that anyone in his audience has heard a position on that topic. So they're getting their little bit of information about politics from this guy. So I think it's important for these guys, especially these guys who work for ESPN, which is a Disney company, to be responsible. And he wasn't responsible. You know, you can't just throw nonsense out there like a podcaster for clips and ratings. You've got to have a little bit of responsibility here. And what he did is he took that the January 6th report that came out, and the government, the narrative of the right since January 6th happened. There's been a collection of nutty conspiracy theorists, you know, Clay Higgins, Ron Johnson, Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's not many, but there's maybe like 25 or 30 people in Congress who say that the FBI caused January 6th, that they put agents into the crowd to incite violence and to start the violence. And they did it on purpose. They wanted violence on January 6th to thwart the lawful objections and the lawful plan that they were going to execute inside the chamber with chaos, knowing that would screw up their plan. So it's a big conspiracy. We could spend hours on it.
Yeah.
But the bottom line of the conspiracy is that the FBI and Chris Wray was behind January 6th, right? So that's, and Higgins has claimed that these ghost buses, you know, were brought into DC with 200 FBI agents on them who were infiltrated into the crowd. So then the FBI Inspector General report comes out, who audited law enforcement's involvement in Jason. Where did they fail? Where did they go wrong? Where did they go right? And a small part of that report talked about this issue. And what they disclosed was, one, there were no FBI agents in the crowd. There were
Correct,
zero, not one.
Yeah.
That there were 26 people who have at one point or another worked as informants for the FBI, but they weren't there told to go there and do anything for them. They just showed up. A lot of them are right-wingers.
Yes.
A lot of them were MAGA. Now, when we say informants, they may be FBI informants on like drug cases in Pennsylvania or, organized crime in Texas. It doesn't, that they're informants about other things that have nothing to do with politics. And they just happen to go there. So the fact that there were 26 people who at one point or another worked for the FBI, the point is the FBI didn't even know that most of them were there. The report said that they knew that 4 of their informants were there, but they specifically told those people
not to go into the building.
Do not go inside the perimeter. Do not go inside the Capitol.
Yeah.
Only one of the informants was somebody who they specifically sent into the crowd to keep an eye on things. One, okay? And he didn't do anything. So enter Stephen A. So right-wingers, by the way, this report comes out, and all the right-wing conspiracy theorists said the FBI has admitted that they had people in the crowd. No, that's not what they said. And they also said Chris Wray lied. Chris Wray lied in his testimony. If you go back and watch Chris Wray's testimony, as I did again this week to make sure I remember what I heard, he specifically said there were no FBI agents in the crowd. And then they said, well, were there any informants? And he said, it is FBI policy for 70 years not to discuss informants. We don't ever talk about informants. There's a lot of good reasons why we don't do that. We never confirm or deny if informants were or were not used in any case anywhere in the United States. That's what he said. But they're saying he lied. He didn't lie. There was nothing he said that was a lie. So then you have Stephen A. Smith go on ESPN and say Democrats lied about this whole thing. And I'm like, what? First of all, Chris Wray's a Republican appointed by Trump. So if you want to say Chris Wray lied, okay, fine. He's not a Democrat. So who are you saying is a Democrat that lied, right? So it was just what he said is wrong, grossly inaccurate. And it made me furious because it's one thing when a nut job right winger in Congress says it or says it on the internet. It's another when ESPN's #1 host, who just signed a $100 million contract extension, says it to people who don't know very much about politics.
Let's take a look.
The news comes amidst a bombshell report from the Justice Department that revealed the FBI had at least 26 confidential informants on the ground when the Capitol was stormed on January 6, 2021. The report says most of the informants engaged in illegal activity during the chaos. The Justice Department says only 3 of its 26 informants present had been instructed to observe potential domestic terrorist suspects on the day of the riot. The rest of the 23 appeared to have gone to the Capitol on their own accord. Upon hearing news of the report, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance posted the following on X, quote, "For those keeping score at home, this was labeled a dangerous conspiracy theory months ago," end quote. Didn't hear anything about that for the election. Didn't hear anything about that when the quote-unquote insurrection was broached by Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. The belief that Donald Trump was a danger to democracy and using this as a profound, illuminating bullet point to make that case. And now here we are yet again finding even more evidence to Donald Trump's claims when he articulated that the process is rigged. My big issue is that I'm really, really sick and tired of every time I turn around finding something else that the Democrats have lied about or downplayed or misrepresented along the way. I mean,
the guy is clearly a Republican operative. He might not vote for Republicans, But we're seeing this increasingly, and I mentioned the other guy. What's his name? Who does that other big podcast? Joe Rogan. Sorry, I mentioned him as another example of these characters. They try to walk the line of politics, don't they? They kind of have a foot in both camps, but none. But they're kind of libertarian. But actually, when it comes down to it, if you were to do a bit of surgery and find out what's going on inside, they're just Republican operatives.
Yeah, I mean, what he's just said there is just bullshit.
All of it.
It's furious. He even goes, it's insurrection. So his idea was like, oh, well, this kind of proves Donald Trump was right.
Yeah.
What the hell is he talking about? The report said the exact opposite. It's so infuriating to me. Like I said, I don't care if a guy is on Fox saying that. I don't care if people are on Newsmax saying that. That doesn't bother me because that goes on every day on those networks. I mean, that's just the way they play the game. But it bothers me that this is on a ESPN because I know that those people are not, a lot of them watching that are not educated on this and don't have the critical thinking skills when it comes to politics. And so they are now going to believe, millions of people, because of Stephen A. Smith, that this whole thing was a setup by the FBI, when the report said quite the opposite.
This is the disinformation warfare that is going to be increasingly difficult for the Democrats to fight against. And unless the Democrats pivot, because, they're losing the messaging war at the moment. And, I mean, there's not a lot coming out of the Democratic camp at the moment.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Name one media company who called him out on that.
Right.
Besides Midas.
Right.
None. Zero. Not CNN, not MSNBC, because it's a country club. It's a club. They're all chummy.
Right.
Because
and also
see,
that's
they would
ESPN.
have called him out if he was a Fox host, but because he is an ESPN Disney guy, and maybe even because he's black, I don't know if that is a factor here. They don't go after him. And so he's flat out lying on ESPN. I mean, how does CNN not do a segment on that, or MSNBC or the Washington Post, calling him out for lying and making him retract it? But they don't. I don't know why.
Well, because
this is where they're failing us. I am the only one who called out Stephen A. Smith on this. Only me, one guy.
I think that the media, if it didn't already, is going to get a major wake-up call because, you and I have been blaming the media partly for Donald Trump's success at the election because of their failure to hold him to account, to ask him any decent questions, and to even educate people as to the rise of fascism, the threat of authoritarianism. That conversation is just not being had in the mainstream media. And that's why, what's the phrase? We've sleepwalked into a dictatorship. Literally sleepwalked. It also doesn't help that, they want to deconstruct the Department of Education for a reason, right? Less people are less educated. They're less likely to push back and to rise up. They're just going to take it lying down. And
well,
it seems like
they want no federal standards in education,
right?
So that each local place can do
can
whatever
indoctrinate
they want.
in their own
exactly.
Yeah,
and with no federal oversight over education.
And where's the media coverage of that, Ron?
Point of that.
Where's the media coverage of that? Talking about
Nobody.
They're going to indoctrinate and the homeschooling thing and the Christian nationalism thing and it's like there is so much to talk about. There are so many avenues where the democracy of this country, both through not just the laws, but even the vote. I mean, I'm not convinced that we're ever going to get a vote. People are talking about the midterms. You think Donald Trump is going to succumb to a midterm? Forget it.
Over and over again, I tried to get media to cover Trump's education agenda because I
Yeah.
saw it, I read it, saw the videos. They weren't interested. No questions were asked in the debate of Trump about his education agenda. None.
I was thinking that, the questions that they consistently ask Trump, whether it be in debates or in interviews, and even that appalling Meet the Press interview the other day, they're asking questions that they know Trump knows how to answer.
Yeah, exactly.
What I would do is I would say, how do you feel about the population of South Africa diminishing and how that is going to change with people getting older? What effect is that going to have on the region and the effect on migration? Like, do you know what I mean? He'll be like,
they're opening up the jails. They're opening up the mental
they're sending them from
they're
their mental
them here.
institutions.
They're not sending their best.
Right.
Right.
Same
yeah.
old, same.
I mean,
same
he's gonna hit the play button. My immigration. Did he just say immigration? Here's my answer for immigration questions.
Yeah.
Press play.
We need to finish in a minute, but I want to finish with this Pete Hegseth story because there's obviously all this, craziness. There's a good chance this guy could get Senate confirmation to be the Secretary of Defense, to run the military. The talk of his drinking problem has been circulated widely. Before I play the clip, because this is a good one, just kind of bring us up to speed with this story.
First of all, I love progressives because like it was the same thing with Hunter Biden. You remember, so you're always defending Hunter Biden because of his substance abuse and stuff, and you're not alone. I mean, there's a lot of progressives too, and it's sort of like this. This is kind of happening a little bit with the Hegseth stuff, where we're doing all these stories about his drinking, and there's a fair number of people out there that are like, I don't care about that. It's like, anything to do with substance abuse. It's like, no, that's not a disqualifier. And it's sort of like, okay. But
can I just caveat that with the fact that Hunter Biden was never in the administration and certainly not running the U.S. military, right?
Yeah, first of all, we're talking about drinking on the job, drinking at work. Okay. And we're talking about Secretary of Defense with the nuclear codes, right? So it's a little different, right? than the Hunter Biden situation. Yeah. But you still have that little pushback on the left, which is like, I don't want to hang my hat on that. But
addiction is a disease. So I think that's probably
the reason why I bring it up is because Trump hates people who drink. He doesn't like alcohol. He's never liked it. He's never, I actually think that that's the one thing he tells the truth about, is that he doesn't drink. I believe that he does not drink because I have never seen him. I believe he does drugs, but I don't believe he's drunk alcohol. And so I know that when, the drinking stuff broke, all the reports were Trump was ready to dump Hegseth because, you could say Hegseth had all these sex assault allegations against him, or has Nazi tattoos, or, excuses war crimes. That doesn't bother Trump at all.
No.
But tell Trump that somebody has a drinking problem and that bugs him. And for whatever reason. And so he was always big on that with his kids too, never allowed to drink any alcohol.
Is that story though connected to his brother? Didn't his brother die of alcoholism?
It might be. Yeah, it might be. It might have something to do with it. I mean, he said his own dad was always very anti-alcohol.
Yeah.
So that could have been it too. But the point is that that's the reason why I want to sort of keep hammering the alcohol issue, is because Trump was very close to dumping Hegseth at one point. But Hegseth, what happened was a bunch of senators who were in Hegseth's corner and Musk called Trump and bailed Hegseth out when he was ready to dump him for DeSantis. But Hegseth said, in part of his denial to Trump, he said, I challenge anyone to find any clip that, he said, I've been on camera thousands of times at Fox over the years. If you I challenge anyone to find one clip showing that I was drinking on the job or appeared intoxicated or was slurring my words, because I guarantee you won't find anything. So, our guy, JD Wolf at Midas, dug up this little thing. Now, I've heard some people excuse this as saying like, well, this is a New Year's show and he's just doing what Anderson Cooper did. Well, first of all, there's never been any, I'm not aware of there's ever been any rumors that Anderson Cooper has a drinking problem. So, it's one thing for Anderson Cooper to decide stupidly, I think, to get drunk on the New Year's Eve show. I think that that's dumb myself. But the point is, it's like a one-off thing for him. Here we have this guy who has had 10 coworkers at Fox come forward and say, this guy drinks on the job. He shows up at work with alcohol on his breath. He's hungover. So when you consider all of that and consider we're talking about Secretary of Defense, this is an issue. And by the way, this clip we found, there's others out there that other people have found too. There's 3 or 4 clips that have come out that show him drinking on camera.
Here it is.
Down goes Duncan Dad on New Year's Eve. Gunner got it. There you go. Gunner hit it right on target. Hey.
I have a feeling Gunner actually rigged that pole and then knocked his dad in.
America runs on Duncan.
Nice pitch, Gunner. Nice pitch.
Gunner's grounded.
Part older one, part alcoholic.
Take that, Nick.
I'm going to take one more drink if that's okay.
You damn right you are. You're well within your rights. There he goes back in again. 2023.
A night the Hexet kids will never forget.
Pete, come back down here. Tell us about that experience. You at home, please don't go anywhere. The party will not stop right here.
Explain to me, is that a hot tub that he's in full of alcohol?
It's full of champagne.
And
his kids are scooping it. His kids
he's clearly off his tits.
His kids are scooping it on camera, on Fox.
It took me a while to work out what the hell was going on.
They showed them pouring bottles of champagne into it.
But that face that he was pulling, he was absolutely completely inebriated.
He was drunk, clearly drunk. And you saw him, he's scooping it out of the thing.
Yeah, he couldn't get enough of it. He was just needed more and more. Oh, man. Okay. Listen,
Secretary of Defense, folks.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Secretary of Defense, the United States, the world's largest military with a $3 trillion budget. Yeah. Okay, we have to wrap this up, but thank you, Ron. It's this is the best part of my week. I don't know about you. I'm sure you have other stuff going on, but for me, it's the best part of my week.
Oh, I don't know. It's kind of stressful, man.
Well, you need to get into a nice tub of champagne and just, chill out a little bit. All right. If you want to download the audio podcast, you can do that later tonight. It drops this evening. If you would like to rewind, watch it again, I'd love you to do that. Please share it wherever you do. You can comment down below as well. And Ron and I will come back next Wednesday and do another Uncovered here on the Midas Touch Network. Thanks a lot, Ron.
All right. See you next week.